Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you for being in the building. Oh, let me honor these cameras right here. I can't only go but this far. My name is Yolanda Davis. I'm so happy to see everybody in real life. How many people are happy just to see other people? I'm Yolanda Davis, and I'm here. I'm assuming y'all are here for this mid-tech career crisis. My job today is really to speak from my experience. I am not an expert in terms of therapy or counseling, but I am someone who had to walk through a crisis. And my take has always been, as I've experienced things and as I've gotten on the other side of it, to impart that to others, no matter where you are in the career. So I see this personally as a dialogue. There might be something that you hear that resonates with you. You might have a question about something. I encourage you to please ask it in the 45 minutes. That's what I got? All right. 45 minutes that we have. And of course, we're not going to solve the world's problems in 45 minutes, but I hope that you just have something that you can walk out the building with and take with you as you move on in your career. So, everybody hear me okay? All right, awesome. You can also say, you're too loud, Yolanda. It's all good. All right, so I've been doing this a really long time in terms of development. I am a principal engineer at Cloudera, but in terms of hands-on development, 25 years. I shake my head because, I'm one of those back in my day people, back in my day when I learned Java, I'm that person at the workplace. And in addition to being a principal engineer at Cloudera, I'm also part of the Apache NiFi community. Anybody heard of Apache NiFi in terms of data movement? That's okay. We deal with a lot of how do you get data from A to B, and I'm part of the project management committee. Also, I've done a lot of community work in the past, technologies of color, if anyone's familiar with technologies of color in Atlanta. I'm a co-founder of that, worked for a lot of years with Marcellus Haynes. Also, I've worked with Black Girls Code in Atlanta in the past, this was a long time ago. And BDPA, if anybody's familiar with that, it stands for Black Data Processors Association here in Atlanta as well as DC. And in terms of my favorite things, I have one hubby, one brownie, that's my dog. And who's a Doctor Who fan? Give me one. I used to ask that question and everybody would either look at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. Doctor Who since 1986, go figure. All right, so like I said, who is this talk for, right? So who's just starting out in the room? Just like your early career, just out, okay. You're in the right place because everybody in this room has probably been you at some point. And this is the talk that I wish I had when I was where you are. That 1 to 2 years out, fresh out, not knowing what I didn't know, just wanting to learn, but also not knowing the pitfalls that could happen or how I can get in a hard place. So trust me, you are in the right place. All right, who feels like they're thriving in their career on the mountaintop, all's good? I see your hands. You're definitely in the right place because I've been there. I've been on that mountaintop right where I'm supposed to be. Work is doing well. I feel well compensated. I feel respected at the job. But the challenge with that sometimes is you'll be celebrating on that mountain of where you are and not seeing little fires that could be burning. For me, when I was on the mountaintop, I realized I was celebrating. I looked down and I'm like, whose mountain is this? All this hard work I did, and I'm standing on a mountain that is not my own, So this place, you're in the right place, I hope. All right, let's be honest. Don't worry, I'm on the camera, y'all are not. Who's barely hanging in there, as they say, right? And you don't have to raise your hand. You can blink. You just blink. You just wink at me. I see you. I've been there too. Barely hanging in there. You wake up some days and you're like dreading going to that desk or dreading if you don't work from home, dreading it. And you don't know why because you used to be passionate, but you haven't quite figured it out. Or maybe you do know why and you don't know how to change it. One of the biggest things is barely hanging there. That's what caused me to write this talk because I was in a place where it was a make or break for me. We'll talk about that in a bit. All right, but you're in the right place. I want to make sure. All right, who's doing all right, but you're like, I'm good. It's all good, no rocking the boat. But if my friend leaves, I'm out. My favorite manager leaves, I'm out of here. If I don't see, the tiniest little, the sun rises in the wrong place, I'm out. you're basically on edge. But here's the thing, right? I've been that floater too, just kind of coasting in there. But the one thing when you float on is sometimes you can't control exactly where you land, right? And so when you're floating, you really don't, it's easy for you to float right in a crisis and not even see it coming. So with all of those things, my hope is that no matter where you are in your career, that anything that you hear today is something that you can take with you. And again, like I said, you have something that resonates with you, you have a question, something that doesn't make sense, go on and chime in. All right, let's talk about when I was on the mountaintop. I don't know if you can see this clearly. That person figure in the back, this was Yolanda in 2018. I was on the top of my game. And that room was at the Hortonworks DataWorks Summit. So at that time, I was a senior software engineer working at Hortonworks. I was doing a training. It was maybe 200 people in there that had done training with me that day. I just felt like, yes, this is perfect fit for me. I love working with people. I love educating people. I feel like it's my gift. And I was operating in that gift that day. And not only that, I did a panel that day representing our team. Really just walked away. I would walk through the hallways, feel like Yolanda, and they pulled me aside and took pictures of me and posted it on Twitter. I don't do Twitter. I'm just letting y'all know I'm on there, but I'm not really on there, you know. And they posted pictures, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm finally at the place where I was meant to be. And so later on that year, this is me talking about that conference. So I actually was here speaking. Actually, I think I misnamed the year. This was actually 2017 during that conference. This is also 2017. I was speaking at this conference about that conference. Isn't that something? And I was just kind of celebrating the moment. And not only that, the name of my talk there was I'm Not Supposed to Be Here, because as an African-American woman, cisgender woman, you look around and you don't see a lot of people who say I'm a principal engineer, right? And so I used this talk to not only celebrate the fact that in that room of 200 people, it was only maybe one or two people that looked like me who I was training, but also I wanted to encourage other people that this can be your journey too, that no matter what, you are right where you're supposed to be, right? No matter what it looks like around you. So once again, feeling like I was on the top of my game. Let's fast forward a bit though. This is 2018. Now, I moved from being a senior software engineer at Hortonworks to now I'm an engineering manager. And so I was invited back to this conference to speak on a panel. And the moderator asked us a really important question. So thankfully, we actually have that talk. Let's see if things will go right and you will be able to hear it. We'll hear the question that she asked about how to maintain your passion during burnout. Hopefully we can hear it. Let's see.
So tell us a time that, you were burned out or exhausted and then how did you reignite that passion to get back out there and continue to pursue your why?
Did y'all hear?
Yolanda, why don't you start this time? I'm going to bounce it around.
I'm going to be honest. I reached that point around this time last year, late last summer. I actually am a newer manager. And I was challenged with having a team around the world. I work remotely for Hortonworks in Atlanta, but I work with people who are in India, who are in Ukraine, who are in Budapest. And, we're working 24 hours a day. And I was working 24 hours along those days, 7 days a week. And it got to a point where my body started to talk to me. My blood pressure went up, my cholesterol went up. I mean, these are just facts of life, and I'm older, and so the things that I used to do in my youth, I can't do anymore. Those all-nighters, for those of you who are in college, those all-nighters, eventually. So I had to take a step back because I was talking to my husband. I said, look, I'm not going to be able to sustain this. This is not sustainable. And he asked me, do you need to do something else? And I always, when I get to these points, I had to take a step back and say, okay, is it the job? Is it me? Am I not liking what I do anymore? And I always land back on this Jeopardy game that I wrote 20 years ago in college. And the feeling that I got, the joy that I got of creating this game. Or I lean to Technologies of Color. Shout out to anybody in TOC in the room here. All right, hi guys. The organization here where we are on the ground educating folks in technology, African Americans in technology, and the things that I'm passionate about there. And I have to say, okay, I'm not sick of what I do necessarily. What's the problem? You're working 24 hours a day, Yolanda. So what did that mean for me? I had to start setting boundaries because I had a friend who 3 years ago had a heart attack. And she told me, Yolanda, as I was working on our girls' trip, Yolanda, this is the reality. If you don't take care of yourself, unfortunately, what will happen is they will mourn you if you go. And then the next day, they will replace you. That is facts. So I had to take ownership and accountability for my health and my life and my work style and say, hey, I know I'm a manager, but how to delegate properly, how to set some hours, even though I work from home, there's going to be some hours where I need to take a step back. And self-care, because the technology is great, but if you don't put the mask on yourself first, it's not going to work. That was my moment.
And that makes sense, right? Everybody agree with that. You have to put that mask on yourself in order to protect yourself. Self-care, setting boundaries. All that Yolanda said in 2018 makes perfect sense, right? Fast forward, if I can find this arrow here. 3 months later, if you look at my Google Docs, I wrote this document called Peace Out. It was my resignation letter. 3 months. The reality was that even though it sounded good to set boundaries, even though it sounded good to put the mask on myself, the reality for me was I struggled with it. But more importantly, I found myself waking up every day not being able to resonate with the work. Nothing that I was doing resonated with me anymore, And I put this quote here, and I know Joe, if you're watching or you see this, Joe is my manager. If you're watching or you see this, he never saw this letter. I'll get to how he never saw it. But if you see what I have here, however, I believe that my departure will make room to have someone that is passionate about the work because I had lost not only the motivation, but my will and my drive. And that is not who I was to that point. I was the person that if I did not like what I was doing, I knew I was passionate about the technology, all that stuff. I was like, okay, let me find a job that fit, right? Or if something was going on organizationally, okay, I love what I'm doing. Let me just take that over here. But the thing was with this is that I was ready to leave even without knowing where I was headed. And I knew that was a problem. And my manager, actually, Joe, knew that too. So let's stop right here and talk about what is a mid-career crisis. Not even talking about tech, but everybody heard of the midlife crisis, right? And we've heard about this anecdotally. It's analogous to that. It's something that happens between 35 and 55. That's what the research kind of says about it. And it denotes kind of a general dissatisfaction with your job. Sometimes you can't put your finger on it. And the one thing that I've seen is, even if you try to Google this definition, they really explain it in terms of symptoms. So you might find yourself feeling bored in things that you used to do and used to enjoy. You might feel burnt out. And I can tell you, some people say burnt out and don't know exactly what it means. What it meant for me was, or what it looked like for me was, I would wake up and start crying. I would wake up and start crying most of the week. I would sit at my desk and my heart would start racing for no reason. I wasn't eating normally. There's different things. It might be different for you, but that's what it looked like for me. And then I was up all the time. I had people in different parts of the world. I was up all the time. Mind was racing. And, also impulsive decision making. I was never the person to just resign with no plan. I was literally typing up that letter and just saying, okay, I'm going to type this up. I'm going to give it to him, tomorrow, and that's it. I'm done. That is not without a plan. That was what that looked like for me. And then finally, and this is the most interesting thing, you start to question, am I valued here? Am I valued? And, is what I'm doing, is what we're doing, does it have value? Does it have meaning? Those type of questions and thoughts and feelings and symptoms, those are all things that come under that burnout, but also to help you kind of realize, hey, am I kind of at this crisis point in my career? And the key is it's not something where it's, I felt alone in this story. What's interesting, and this is actually something that was looked at in last year. So imagine, I'm going through this in 2018. If this had happened at the pandemic time, there's no telling how I would have fared. So this particular research was occurred during, I think maybe around 2021 to 22. No, it had to be 2020 to 2021 by Hinge Marketing, where they say that most people would either quit or switch their jobs. We're mid-career. So we're not talking people who are just fresh out. We're talking about people who are in the middle of the career. And if you can see, apologize for the small print, but if you can see some of the reasons that they left, a couple of those reasons in there, actually 51.7% of the respondents said work-life balance. Over half people, burnout. Other part, what I was doing was unfulfilling, no passion. So this is a very real phenomenon that happens to lots of people. It's this stuff that people have been feeling and kind of in, and it's okay. If you feel that this is kind of where you are, it might be leading. It's okay in knowing that you're not alone in it. And I further qualify the mid-tech career crisis because there are certain things that I believe when it comes to technology is an even pressing factor. So for one thing, I've been doing this for 25 years, and one thing I know for sure is this technology keeps changing, and it keeps changing, and it keeps changing very, very quickly. And I'm at a place where I'm like, man, I'm just gonna have to let something go. For example, I did web development for a long time, all parts of it. So we weren't even calling it back end, front end for a long time. And then mobile app came along, and I said, I gotta let something go. I mean, it's only so much. And as things evolve, at where I am, it's like, how do you keep up? How do you keep up the pace? So that can kind of get you at a crisis point as well. Feeling alone. I'm probably the only person at my company who looks like me and what I do. And it's been like that for a really long time in a lot of places that I travel. I bet many of you might have that shared experience. So for me, having someone who looked like me and had similar experience or walked this walk before did not exist. Who could I turn to and talk to when I was feeling like this? There was no one that I felt like had this shared story or a similar experience, right? And that was pressing on me as well. And then I love the code, y'all. Who loves the code? I love the code. And as you move up in leadership, sometimes you gotta let it go, and I don't wanna, I'm still that kid that programmed that Jeopardy game. that Jeopardy game, that saved my class, when I was in undergrad. But I'm still that kid on the inside that enjoys writing code. But at the same time, I'm charged with leading a team of people, working with people across the globe at times, and I can't write code all the time. And so I'd gotten into this place of, do I really want to lean into one direction or the other? Isn't there some fair mix somewhere? So all of these things can kind of lead into what I start calling the mid-tech career crisis. Because now I was in a place where I didn't know whether or not I was still passionate anymore. I didn't know what my next step was. And even though I had supportive leadership, I had a great team, I'd gotten accolades, I was still unhappy. Isn't that something? It wasn't really, for me, those type of external factors. There were lots of pressure going on, lots of pressure and lots of hours. But even with the support, I still felt like something was missing. All right, back to my manager. That's him. Oh, you have a question? Individual contributor. Thank you for asking. That's what I meant. Thank you for asking. All right. My manager at that time, his name's Joe Witt. So spoiler alert, if you haven't figured out, he's still my manager, just in different form. Joe, at that time, we were at Hortonworks, and this is him on stage at the same conference that I spoke at. And Joe was the person that really, thankfully, Joe and I had the relationship even then, and definitely now, where I felt comfortable enough before I handed him the letter to talk to him about my intentions, because I knew that he had supported me throughout the duration of when I worked with him in a way where I wanted to at least do things in the right way, even though I didn't know what I was going to do. But I was like, I want to make sure this transition was good with him. And so, thankfully, Joe asked me a really important question because after he heard everything that I kind of complained about, he said, "So what are you trying to do? What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know. I'll figure it out." That's literally I said. I don't know because my mind was on hitting the eject button. And so instead of just letting me go on and working out a transition plan, Joe just said to me, "Yolanda, I just think you're burned out, and what I think we really need to do is give you some time such that we can figure it out, and now so that you can figure out what you really want to do. But at the same time, give me an opportunity to make this opportunity here right for you." That was a huge, huge thing for me. And so I thought about it because I still, normally when I make those decisions, I'm done. But I thought about it, and I talked to my husband about it, and I took up Joe on his offer. I gave him an opportunity to make it right. We thought about it. Actually, I thought about it for a lot of months. And in 2019, I actually started that work. All right. As a pause, let's take a quote from my favorite philosopher of current time. I'll tell you, where was this song in 2018, 2019? But honestly, if you read the words, it was definitely a theme that helped me go into the direction that I needed to go in the next stage of my career. I really was looking for a motivation. But most importantly, I was looking to establish a foundation, right? Because I really just didn't have one. And I needed a new vibration. I needed some new energy or some new life pushed in. And so my hope is what I'll talk you through, at least what I did, it'll help you to see what your new foundation, if you need one, can be. All right. Can anybody tell me what they think this is? Vision board. Perfect. This is my personal vision board. And it was funny, I've never done one of these things. I never did a vision board. My friend, shout out to Ann today. She's probably watching. She's one of my closest friends. And she said to me in early 2019, knowing everything I was going through, she said, "Hey, let's do vision boards." And I was like, I got so much going on right now. But I knew my friend wanted a partner in this. And I said, all right, I'll do the vision board thing. And I've been the person to kind of write down my goals. Anybody anybody in the room, vision boards, goals? I've been a person that has written goals down. But it's been a long time that I really kind of sat down and assessed this for myself. And then the other thing too that kind of kept me from doing the vision board parties and all that, I'm like, oh, it seems so permanent. I got to actually go and cut out paper, put it on a frame, put it on a frame and put it up somewhere. And me and my type A personality, I'd always been in this place, if I set a goal, I must reach this goal. But I thought to myself, I really don't want to feel tied to whatever this is. I wanted to give myself license to make changes and only have it aligned to things that resonated with me. So really what you see here, this is like a PowerPoint. I went online, found some clips that I wanted, and then I printed out and just have it stuck on my lamp. I literally just have it on tape. And if it changes, something changes, I just print out a new one and update it. But what the board helped me do is it helped me to think about not only what I wanted to do, but the core of who I am. It helped me to think about what my purpose was in life and how things really should align with what I'm here to do and how I'm here to serve, right? And so for me, this board started off, it helped me to figure out what my foundation was personally, and it served as my compass for every decision that I started making in 2019. Now, I'll tell you this. You see this kind of built lean? I didn't fit that yet, right? This is kind of like the workout stuff. But there's some things that I've achieved on this board because I made critical decisions in saying, number one, I'm confident in who I am in this life right now. And so my hope is that everything that I do will help align with that. And in that, I can find passion again, no matter what it looks like, whether it's staying with where I am or moving on to someplace else. So armed with this and having a manager that was willing to listen, now I could set up, what I call my new foundation. So here's what it changed to. No more Yolanda, the engineering manager. No shade to anybody that's a manager. But when it comes to certain things in management, which are important, it didn't resonate with me. You know, the budget alignment and all that, that's just not my calling. But what I love to do is mentor people. And I love to provide technology direction, you know, and working with others in being successful. And so my career changed from being an engineering manager. Then I became a staff engineer, and then I was promoted to a principal engineer. But I'm still a leader. I still have a team, but we are very much focused on how can we make this product better every day, and how can we do our best to serve our customers. And I'm not checking off as many of the boxes as I used to do. Well, even more importantly, if you saw it on that vision board, one of the things that I'm absolutely passionate about, and it's on the I would say on the newer trajectory now that it's hot, is data science. The reason I had to go back to why did I show up at Hortonworks in the first place? And just a little note, Hortonworks merged with Cloudera, and that is why it's now Cloudera, why I'm at Cloudera, and also Joe is there as well. But the reason why I came to the company to begin with was to learn about data science, but it got lost. And so the reason why I wasn't passionate about it is because my career just kind of went with wherever we really needed to succeed, but it didn't align with how I felt I needed to succeed. And that's something that I just kind of got disconnected from. And so with this position, I worked with Joe in order to figure out, okay, how can we evolve in the direction that now I've decided I wanted to go in? And we worked on that. And so now I am part of the what we call our data flow operations team, where we do things around observability and metrics and in the future analytics, right? And so now, even though I still work a whole lot of hours, but I'm vested, right? That makes a difference. When you are not vested in what your purpose is in the company, it's easy for you to either float on, get disenfranchised, or what have you. All right, speaking of that data science thing, so I realized, okay, I know how I learn, and I'm not that person that just kind of picks it up on the job. The thing with Cloudera is we write a lot of products that help support people in data science, but in terms of us actually using them and having people there, it doesn't see a lot of that. And my current day-to-day doesn't get in-depth in the way that I wanted to. And so I decided, 2019, let's go back to school. And so this fall, if that's wood, I'll be finishing up my second master's at Harvard Extension School. Has anybody heard of the Harvard Extension School? Thank you. Focused on data science because I was like, you know, this is where I know the next phase of my career. I just had to sit with and say, if I want to be invested, let me invest in it. And Cloudera has helped invest in me on that journey as well. Along the same lines, the other thing on the vision board I had in the middle was data science for good. For me, I wanted to give back in a very tangible way that was a bit different than kind of some of the stock markets and everything people watch. And so I worked with an organization for my capstone called Wild Track, and they help deal with tracking species in a non-invasive way. And then that little thing with question marks, this is the part where, I don't know. I'm 46 years old. And I don't say I don't know. I know I want to get my PhD in this. It's just more of the when, because the truth is I'm tired. I'm 46 years old, and that's, I'm glad to have gotten this accomplishment, but it's different from when you get your master's when you're 20s. It just is, especially at the level that I operate at work. And so this is more of when will I actually pull the trigger. I think I'm going to give myself a break next year. But the moral to the story is, it's all good. I'm glad mine did. I'm just saying I had to make me check mine. But the moral to the story is it doesn't mean that I've solved all the problems for myself, right? I still have a lot of work I need to do. I have homework right now that I have to finish after I talk to you. But this is the mountain I choose. If I'm stressed out about something, at least it's something I'm vested in. At least it's not something that I'm just going to float on, and that truly made the difference for me. All right, so 2022, crisis in retrospect. Well, let's do this quick Q&A. You've heard my story, a little bit of it. What do you think were the specific points that led to me being on edge? Anyone, out of what you heard? Managerial, that was part of it, yeah, because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Anything else? Lack of community. Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, because I didn't have a lot of people that resonate, that could resonate at the same time. But ironically, just with that, there were people at the company also experiencing burnout. We just weren't talking to each other. And then at one point, somebody did reach out, and I'm like, wow, at least I'm not alone. It just thinks that we're all dealing with the same thing. But yeah, that was important as well. Who else? Yes. Misalignment. Absolutely. I didn't take the moment to figure out why am I here? What do I really want to do? It's very easy when you first come out because you just don't know what's all available. But after 5 years, 10 years, if you're just working somewhere, at what point do you say, does this align with what I'm truly passionate about? Because that makes a difference. And when it doesn't align with you, it's very easy for you to kind of hop from place to place with no real purpose. So all of those that everybody has mentioned, all of those were important things. And just not staying in touch with what is important to me, what is at the core of my gift. Because I really believe personally, and this is just personally, I really believe if you align things, even with technology, with the things that you truly are gifted with, you will reach that place where you're like, no matter what, I'm going to push through, or no matter what, you'll see the fruit of that, I should say. All right. The tools and resources I needed to navigate my situation. What did y'all think? What was I doing? I know I kind of said it in terms of this is what happened, but what did I do?
Friend who pressed you to make a vision board?
Yes. Asking a friend. Perfect thing to call out. I think you're seeing ahead of some of my slides. Anything else, though, but that's great.
Having a heart-to-heart with your manager.
Yeah. Being honest. Talking to my management. Having goals. Having goals. Having vision. That's even bigger than a goal. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I wish I actually had done that, though, because I actually hit a wall. My hope for today is to prevent y'all from hitting the wall. But yeah, that's absolutely part of it. I didn't have a heart attack. Well, I'm just saying, you're right. I didn't have a heart attack, but I had other things that happened. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, I absolutely did hit a wall. Yeah. I would say I'm glad I had others who kind of helped me see it, who helped me see it, because I couldn't see it in myself. But all great stuff. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward because I'm seeing the time right now. Who's that asking for a friend? Person in the front right here. Listen, the first thing I would say to anybody is, if you're not feeling quite right in your current position, or even just how you're feeling in your career, ask a friend. Ask a friend, because sometimes they can see what you don't see. I put that 360 review up here because, at work, and some people, they kind of teeter on whether 360s are great or not, but at work, people will ask everybody around you. I think I do that in my life. So don't keep that as just a work experience. In my life, I talk to my husband, I talk to my mom, I talk to my sister, I talk to my dad, and I'll check in, and or they'll see something, say, well, honey, my mom, well, honey, I just want you to make sure. Just to check in is important. And also, I have a therapist. Let me put that in bold and underline it. Because of the work that I do at the level that I do, having that level of outreach was important for me. So first, I'd say ask a friend, because sometimes the friends can call out the things before you even see them, those people closest to you. All right. Next, and I can't emphasize this enough. All the time when people create businesses, they say, you have a vision statement, a mission statement, a purpose. Why don't we do this for our lives? When we talk about vision, mission, purpose, I'll just read it to the left or the right, but I kind of bounce around with it. Because I really think people say it in this order, but I start with purpose. You have to take some time and sit with yourself and try to figure out or see, why am I here? Not just at this job. Like, why am I in this career? Or why am I here in this world? What do I believe? What purpose am I serving? Or how can I serve? Maybe that's a different way to look at it. And you might not know the answer to that. The way for me, that came out in terms of, I was realizing I was really good at a couple of things. Really good at educating others. I call it the 3 E's. education, empowerment, and encouragement. I realized that people come to me and, I'm always like, you can do, I believe in you. Or try to educate someone, no matter what it's technology, whatever I do, working with kids, working with adults. And over the years, once I realized these things were my gifts, I said, okay, maybe this is why I'm supposed to be here. Maybe this is my purpose. And whatever I do and whatever vehicle I use, my vehicle being technology, let it align to why I'm here. So sitting with that purpose helps you devise what your mission. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Where, like, have you really, raise your hand if you really thought about in the next 5 years where I'll be? Okay, good. Or have you thought about next 10 years? Anybody has done that? I see you in the back, yeah. Next 10 years. And for me, this serves as a mark. It serves as a dream. I might have no clue how to get there. Zero. When I applied for Harvard, just to put a note on it, when I applied to Harvard, the way they do it is you have to take a class first. I had already gotten into Georgia Tech. But I was so enthused with the Harvard program, you had to take 2 classes first before you let you in. I turned down the other school. On faith, took the classes. Took a year for me to actually get accepted in, right? Because I didn't even know, by the way, I put it on the vision board before I knew I would even take the classes. That Harvard that you saw. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just had to put a mark on it. So I have a target such that every choice I made, from that point when I put it on the board, I start talking to Joe. I'm going back to school. We need to do something that aligns with school. Every conversation I had aligned up to where I see myself 5 years after I have that degree, hopefully 5 to 10 years when I have a PhD, when I have a nonprofit, when I'm helping with ethics and AI. I can keep going. I didn't have that vision before. Now everything helps me guide in that direction. And so that's what leads to mission, right? It's the how. I started working through, okay, how do I make this happen? But part of that too is I kept talking about it and I kept sharing it and it was not a secret. Don't keep this a secret. Share it with as many people around you as possible, especially at your job, especially where you work, especially when you go interview. So they know what you're coming here to try to do. It is an exchange. You are doing something for them. It's not just your check. It's really what are you going to learn while you're there? How are you going to serve while you're there? How is it going to grow you while you're there? You're interviewing them as well. So I always say, this is what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm looking for. No matter what. Don't keep it a secret. And then finally, it's not etched in stone. It is okay to change your mind. Let that sit with you for a second. It is okay if the goal, if the mission no longer serves you. What is important for you is ensuring that you always keep in mind some target for yourself. Even if you need to take a pause, like I just need to currently think about what's next for me. And it could seem daunting. This isn't overnight. I can't tell you how many times I've moved around those pictures on that vision board. But it's more of ensuring that you invest in yourself, because only you will be able to invest in yourself for real and set up that compass and that foundation so that you know exactly how you can navigate through things. All right. My favorite quote, I heard this 5 years ago. Closed mouths don't get fed. Ask. All you have to do sometimes is literally ask someone, hey, am I able to take this class while I'm doing? Hey, can I help you with this because I want to learn? Hey, I know I'm in this role. One of my mentees, people I mentor at work, she was working within one area of insecurity and she wasn't fulfilled. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to work with UI. I said, why don't you ask your manager? And now she's thriving a year and some change later. All she had to do was ask. So step out, leverage your network, leverage whatever support system that you have. Talk to your managers, talk to your friends. You never know what opportunities that can align you with where you want to go to help get you out of the rut that you see yourself in or somebody else sees you in. All right. And finally, and this is, or not finally, but this is another thing too. This to me, I know everyone may not feel comfortable doing mentor-mentee work. I'm a person who, over time, had a greater appreciation receiving mentorship. I've had some great mentors at my company. But also turning that around and being a mentor for others. So being a mentee and being a mentor can be valuable for you. For anything, the best reason I think for myself, accountability. Because all these things that I try to receive from my mentor and implement and talk to my mentee about, and they'll come back and say things to me, you know. And I love this picture because sometimes you see those pictures of the mentor bringing up, we're in this together. We float in this journey together. We're supporting each other in this. And also you can see things in your mentees sometimes that you might say, am I going through that? You know, let me, you know, it makes you kind of double check just in case. Because as my therapist said, if you spot it, you got it. You know? He literally says that. So yeah, like the mentor, mentee, and not to say that if you're in a place of burnout, it's just when you're in a comfortable place. It's just part of the journey to keep you accountable and also keep you on course, but at the same time help someone else stay on their course. And this is my finally, be kind to yourself. If you're in a place where you feel like you're in crisis, don't beat yourself up about it, you know. Everybody has gotten into some rut in some point in their life or at some place where they might seem like they're floating on. Or, you might not make the goal that you wanted, but our biggest enemy sometimes can be ourselves and can be in the mirror. So I encourage, the biggest tool that I say outside of vision, mission, and purpose and everything else, be kind, be patient with yourself in the journey. Know it's a process and know that even for me, I'm still evolving in this. Even for me, even though I've checked a lot of the things I want to do, I'm always checking in with myself. I'm always saying, you know, I am exhausted. Do I really want to get this PhD next year? You know, okay, maybe it doesn't have to be next year, Yolanda. You can wait. You know, spend some time, relax. So the biggest thing, being kind, being patient in the journey, and knowing that once you have that new foundation for you, it will all come together for you. You keep that focus there. All right. And with that, this is where I end, but this is where I hope you can begin. My hope today is that I've solved some of the 3 things that I say I'm gifted in, but I'll leave that up to you to judge in terms of encouraging you to think about what your foundation is. Hopefully today you are empowered with some knowledge that you can take with you and use wherever you work, whether you're in a rut, wherever you're thriving. Hopefully you will see that just stay on the lookout. This isn't to scare you. This is just to give you hope, right? To give you hope that no matter what, there is a way out of a rut to prevent a rut. Have a vision for your life, have a purpose in your life. And my hope is from here on, you'll be able to walk out the door and just think about what your new foundation will be, what your new vibration will be, what energy you will be getting into the world, what newness you will bring. And you'll be able to navigate through and forget and not even see a crisis. So, thank you. All right, any questions? And we have maybe only like 2 minutes or so, but any questions somebody has or concerns or that you're willing to share in the open forum? Yes. Not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying what they say, but no, not at all. I think when it comes to like tech careers, it's really more of people who are like maybe 5 to 10 years in or, 10 to 20 years in. I've talked to people who are in crisis, who are younger, and I'm like, okay, and I ask the same questions. Like, have you really thought about what you're doing, what you really want to do? Is this what you really want to do? So you're not too young, okay? Yes.
How do you, as a person and a woman of color, how do you deal with the feeling of, and especially with like everything that's going on politically, like how do you get over that feeling of like, did I earn this job or did I get this job so that I can check off a box?
Yeah, that can be tough. And I say that especially in current climate, for me, and for me personally, I think it was my history of the results that I delivered. Unfortunately, I don't walk in the room with the presumption that I will succeed. That's just has been my career. When I start new, it's like, oh, you're the engineer? My proof has been in my results. And so my results help to qualify that I belong here. And for me, I always ensure that whatever I'm doing kind of aligns anyway. And if I'm feeling like I'm not getting the opportunities, I make that known. Or, you have to have that conversation. You have to. And honestly, where I am, at least, I can only speak from an anecdotal sense, but also I've had these conversations with other women or those who identify as women in terms of not even speaking up on money situation or on, the compensation, compensation or roles and the work that they do or promotion. We are challenging those communications. For me, I just ensure that, okay, I know what I can do. And the challenge with that, though, is I've been doing this for 25 years. When I first came out, it was a struggle for me. I was always relying on people that could vouch for me because they'd already worked with me in the past. But now I'm in a place where I know what I bring to the table. And so thankfully, I'm in a space, and I believe it's a blessing. I'm in a space where I'm valued by leadership and have been recognized. That's not always the case. I've been in other places where I was there for years and never got a promotion. So yeah, it is a challenge. My hope is, though, and what I'll say to you and anyone who might be struggling with that, having a network of people who look like you, have similar experiences. In this day and age, it is more available now than it was when I started in 1998. Right? And so reaching out to those people and having those conversations key. A lot of my close friends are people who work in industry, especially here in Atlanta. And we share these stories and have that support system and try to encourage people to, communicate and talk up, when we need to. And I believe in also talking, I learned recently, don't just talk to my manager. Having regular meetings with my manager's manager. All of those things so people can recognize who I am and what I do and what I bring to the table. I hope that helps. I know it wasn't. Okay, I'm glad. Anyone else? All right, well, I appreciate your time today. I'm happy to see you in person today. I'm missing Twitter, but like I said, I'm Yolanda M. Davis on Twitter too, but I don't go out there. There's a lot going on. But, if you reach, it's a lot going on. But feel free to reach out to me in either of this place. Thank you so much.